Racism is endemic to the human condition, just as stupidity is. We will always have to be on guard against it. But now, in the United States, it is recognized as a scourge. What has happened is that Black America has been confronted with a new problem, the shock of freedom, close quote. The shock of freedom as a problem. Explain that.
Well, if you have been an oppressed people, and we were obviously truly oppressed for centuries, we learned all sorts of things in order to survive that. I won't go into a long list, but we learned how to reinvent ourselves. We learned how to live with this oppression, with this sort of negative force in your life. We were, I think, miraculous. We created a great music out of this. We did other things that had a worldwide impact. We expanded the idea of democracy and made freedom an absolute. We did all those things. The one thing we never had a chance to do, was to live in freedom. We were never free. We were always in a position of calculating our fate through those who dominated us. We were never just free to invent ourselves as we wanted to. And the fact that beginning in the 60s, when we began to confront freedom, when America backed up and said, okay, discrimination is wrong, here are a bunch of laws to support that, we're confronted. Well, what do you do with freedom? What are you going to do now? And historically, it scared the hell out of us. We would be fantasizing if we denied that. Who wouldn't be? Freedom is a frightening thing. It places such a burden of responsibility on you, on the person who has it. You're now responsible. Your reputation is based now on what you do. Well, combined with that was the fact that 4 centuries of oppression had left us, in many ways, underdeveloped. So when freedom comes, freedom then says, we're not oppressing you anymore. You're responsible for your underdevelopment. And you fix it or you don't, it's up to you. And that was, freedom requires a wholly different orientation toward the world. And we became afraid, and what happens then again, when you're afraid you don't know how to move forward, you start to move backward.
Shelby, the argument would be, and I know what the argument is because your piece in the Wall Street Journal created, let's put it this way, there was a response on the internet. You can Google Shelby Steele and some of the quotations I've just read, and you will get a response. And the argument would be, no, stop there. We're with you. Everything you've said makes perfect sense right up until you get to the point that we're free now. As you say, the era of Black oppression is over. No, it's not. There's still all kinds of racism endemic to this. Here's some statistics I found. 2015, Black households at the 20th and 40th percentiles of household income, that is lower middle class and pretty poor people, earned an average of 55% as much as white households at those same 2 percentiles. And that's exactly the same figure as in 1967. And so the answer is, Dr. Steele, just look at African Americans haven't made an iota of progress. Of course this has to be because we're still oppressed. How do you deal with that argument, Shelby?
It's a corruption. And it's a corruption because if you look at the statistical difference, from then up to now, who says that's because of racism? Maybe it's because you haven't yet developed the value system to the ideas with which to thrive in freedom. Maybe you don't know what to do with the opportunities that surround you. It's understandable. You were oppressed. And And people have not pointed out to you the challenge of freedom. And what do people do with freedom when they don't know how to handle it? They reinvent their oppression, even as it has faded away. They make it up in their mind all over again. Racism is around every corner. There is systemic racism. There's structural racism. There are microaggressions, and there's white privilege, and all of this. This is designed again is the shock of freedom, and not knowing. I mean, you look at today's black leadership; they have no clue of how to move ahead. All they can think to do is ask for more from the government. Well, we've asked for the government has given us almost everything. Nowhere in history has the government paid off its people more than America has in the last 60 years. And yet we are, by most socioeconomic measures, farther behind white America than we were in the 50s, when we had none of these social programs and so forth. So it is, freedom it comes with a judgmentalism. It judges you. If you don't know how to thrive in freedom, it means that you are at fault. You are, in the worst word you can use regarding blacks, you are inferior. It's a chilling idea, but it's at the heart. It is the heart of the shock of freedom. Because freedom now is saying you can't use oppression as an excuse anymore. If you're not doing well, it's not because of oppression. For goodness sakes, we've got affirmative action. We've got everything to help you. If you're not doing well now, it's on you. And so one of my points about the protest, the NFL protests, and the same with Black Lives Matter, is that there's this sort of hysterical protesting that when they can't even articulate what they're protesting against. Well, if racism is so virulent, it ought to be obvious. When I was a kid, it was obvious. No one denied it. It was visible to everybody every day. And that was the beginning and the end of it. Today, where is it? Where are you being stopped? Well, I want to rise. I want to be a politician. I want to be the president. Okay. You want to be the CEO of such and such a corporation. Okay. You can do anything you want. The reality and the problem with that occupies Black America today is the fact that we are at last a free people.